All right.
Well, welcome to the November 16th, 2021. I usually use the time at UTC and of TangerineSDR and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been continuing trying to debug code. Been interacting with Dave on a couple projects, and so that's more or less. I'm learning lots about USB dongles, radio dongles. So, and I do have a compute module 4 with a sound card running now, and it's quite a nice radio or a computer. So, has some potential. So that's it for me. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Dave. It's been a busy week for me. I'm continuing to work on redoing the HamSCI workshop logistics, so that's making progress on that. Let's see, I've been working on writing my LSTID paper. I met with Jonathan Rizzo on Saturday, where we siliconed up and sealed my magnetometer and put in some insulation and a desiccant, and that's setting right now. So hopefully this coming weekend we can actually put it in the ground. Let's see, the WWV modulation group, their project has started today. So if you listen to WWV and at 8 minutes after the hour, WWVH at 48 minutes after the hour, you can hear the special HamSCI test tone that they are putting out, and we're recording it, and I'm having my DSP class do some sort of project with that as well. So W2NF, back to net.
Well, fine business. That sounds interesting. Next on the list is Dev, KC3PVE. Go ahead, Dev.
Hello, good evening, everyone. It's a good start of the week today, November 15, and it's going fine. It's going fine. I don't have very exciting updates, but it's going very fine. Thank you so much.
Very good. And next on the list is Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening. This has been another kind of frustrating week without much of anything ham radio wise happening. Had a out of town wedding we had to go to for a few days, which went well, but dinner in the cold was a little bit disconcerting. And I've had some septic emergencies at the house, but I think we got that resolved now. And now it's about time for Thanksgiving. We're going to have about 40 people over, so it may be a few days before I can get back to anything ham or HamSCI related. Back to net, sorry.
That sounds like quite a crowd.
Yes.
Next on the list, we have Dan in for XWE. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Dave, and hello, everyone. Let's see, last week I worked on Bullseye, the latest Raspberry Pi operating system release. It wasn't very good at the beginning. It took them about 4 or 5 days to fix a couple of really, really bad problems, but it's now working much better. Second issue was operating FT8. I'm trying to put together a mobile station using a Raspberry Pi and an IQ2, and everything is going well. The only issue I have to conquer is the display issue. I really don't know what to use because I need a 12-volt DC display or similar. Anyway, if anybody has any suggestions, please let me know. And with that, back to you, Dave.
Fine business. And next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave. Mute.
Had to find my mouse pointer here. I've got 2 screens and it's hard to get back to the one that matters. let's see. I've been spent last couple days getting a pie and a whole bundle of things together to send off to Amartya in Palo Alto to work on this project that he and I are trying to get going. And I think I got it all off at the finally, but I'm just sitting here wondering, here's a little RM3100 module that I hope I put one in the package that I sent him. But other than that, it's just been kind of a scramble today. So that's about
Question,
it.
have you made any progress on the web server on Picomation?
I looked at it this morning, and I was trying to do these two things at the same time. I decided I decided I was less sure what was wrong after I looked at it today than I was. It may be a day or so before you can see the web thing properly. Somehow it's having trouble finding the key, and either it updated the key on me. It looks like it did. They update maybe the SS, the TLS3 key expired, and Let's Encrypt put a new one there, but they have to be concatenated together a certain way. And it keeps giving me an error that it can't find it, but it's right where it's supposed to be. I have to look at it some more. Hopefully I'll try to get that done quickly.
Fine business, and I did check my logs, and they're all there just fine.
Oh yeah, everything's there. It's just the little web server and it's got the PEM files have to be in a kind of a different format than most servers expect. And so when Let's Encrypt does an auto update, it doesn't, apparently it doesn't do it quite the way it wants.
Okay, well, thanks
So
for checking on that. And next on the list is David, N1HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. Been a busy week on a number of fronts. Working on a Korean AGO project, which ultimately should have some of our hardware down there. HamSCI hardware. Let's see, doing some USRP stuff, doing some other SDR stuff, talking about repurposing our AM Doppler for the WWV, and actually some of the our existing radio systems. We may have some low band WWV that we can contribute. And it was interesting to hear the test signal finally on the air this afternoon. Unfortunately, I have a fair amount of power line QRM right now, so I couldn't hear the whole of it, but certainly there. And let's hope we get some real data out of it. Back to Nat.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Not too much new here. Been doing a little bit of carpentry up in my attic over the garage, hoping to get some antennas up there in the next week or two. So I can begin receiving, and we'll be doing a little transmitting after that, we hope. So back to Nat.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is James, KG4DSG. Go ahead, James.
Good evening, Dave and the group. Not much going on here, just listening in as usual. Back to the net.
Fine business. And next on the list is JB, K8OS. Go ahead, JB.
it's interesting I haven't worked phone for many, many years, so when I hear that call verbally, it brings back memories of 10 meters back in the late 70s. Anyway, so I've been doing a lot of stuff. The main thing is I've been digging into ionospheric physics related to radio propagation. And I'm reading this book right now. It's written by the US Department of Commerce. The title is Ionospheric Radio Propagation, and it gets down to the physics, first principles. I have an agenda about this. Early on, when I joined this group, you guys probably heard me recall my mumbling about self-noise processes in the ionosphere, in particular the with active sun. And in fact, someone here reported some results with the latest CME that indicated, didn't show any indication that a big thing had happened with solar weather. And after I had thought about it for a while, I realized that I was surprised only because I was incorrect in thinking where that the self noise might be. I'm making a prediction here that with active sun, the ionosphere is basically it's a plasma, as we know, but it's with those kind of events, it's a non-equilibrium process, or there are non-equilibrium processes going on. And so what I'm expecting is a GR type noise, generation recombination type noise, but it should be at a very low frequency. So ultimately, my goal in the current study I'm doing is to calculate that corner frequency from first principles. And if indeed we might observe it, it won't be at WWV frequencies, it'd be much lower. And if we look at the typical F-1 to F-2 corner, we might see that moving around during active sun under certain, say like a CME or something like that. We should see that move. So that's where I'm headed with this. That's what I'm thinking about. And I'm digging into this book, and I should be able to calculate it in not too distant future. I know that's not what you're working on right now, but I should be able to offer something interesting if indeed I can do the calculation. And other than that, I did get a mail call today, and I straightened out my video here. So I have, whoops, yeah, that one's backwards. Here we go. 2 new cards.
Yay.
Yeah, one from one from Turks and Caicos, and the other one from the Mariana Islands. So that's all. Back to Ned. Thank you.
Very good. Next on the list, let me find where I am. Joe, W7LUX.
Good evening, everyone. Been collecting photos and plots for the upcoming AGU presentation. Other than that, just staying extremely busy here. Go ahead, Dave.
Fine business. And next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I had a fairly depressing week. I figured out that Linux 5.1, or at least also drivers in the Linux 5.1 kernel were the culprit to my timing issues that I was having with my sound card on my Raspberry Pi. Because what I did, I installed the original sound card, and I had the exact same problem with the original sound card. Everything connected the way that it was, and I had the exact same problem. So I wanted to be able to downgrade the kernel. So I used RPI-update. And if you pick the right hash for the appropriate kernel, you could downgrade it, or at least in theory, and that caused it not to boot. So I went to copy my backup image that I made from before I even started this process, and I inadvertently screwed up with DD, and I put the input file where the output file should be, and I ended up completely screwing up my backup. And I meant to make another copy of my backup and put it on my Google Drive, but I had to clear it out first, and I didn't get a chance to do that. So my backup is now gone, and months worth of work is now erased over the span of almost 2 years. So I'm kind of bummed. I was pretty. I was ready to cry when it happened, but so for right now, I'm trying to pick up the pieces and piece everything together to try to reinstall everything and get everything working again like it was on the earlier version of Raspbian Light that I was using. So now the challenge is to boot up my old computer and hope that I save that install image, because I don't remember what the file name was. I don't have it on my new one. It might be on my old one. If not, then I just have to guess and hope the ALS drivers work. So I'm a little down, but it's best to keep on pushing forward. I got it working before I could probably get it working now. So I'm very busy getting this thing moving forward. That's all I have. Back to Nick.
Well, fine business, Jonathan. Sorry to hear that. And next on the list is Jules, K2KGJ. Go ahead, Jules.
Good evening, Ned. JB's comment showing his Turks and Caicos card USL card reminded me of a problem we had at the Thruway about 20 years ago with a 50 kilowatt AM station, and the Turks running on 530 kilohertz that would interfere with our highway advisory radio system that was used from basically from the Woodbury Toll Plaza on south into New York City, and pretty much wiped them out during the evening. Anyway, this week's been interesting. Heilman's been wanting to compare the RM3100 performance with a relatively inexpensive fluxgate. Earlier this year, I purchased 3 single axis FLC 100s from Stefan Meyer for about a total of $330. And I'm just currently now mounting those in a triaxial mount hopefully for installation of the ground before the ground freezes. It only requires a 5-volt supply. The interface is fairly simple. It's an 18-bit 3-channel A to D that has an I2C interface, so it's going to be extremely easy to interface with the existing system. I can just tack the little AD converter card onto the existing remote card, and the magnetometer array itself just sits below that in the pipe. Also, we happen to find in doing that, I happened to come across some conduit fittings, which I had forgotten about. One in particular, which I sent a copy to Dave, KD0EAG, and to Scotty, is a box that with removable sides that would make mounting of the connector, the waterproof connector, trivial, and also provide better access to that portion instead of having a standard T fitting at that point. So I've just ordered information on those conduit fittings, and I'll probably have a couple of them in here by the end of the week. But that would make life a lot easier relative to the T-head where we currently have the junction with the waterproof connector. Back to you, Dave.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is Mike, AAAK. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, thank you. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. And next on the list is Scotty, WA2 DFI. Go ahead, Scotty.
My computer is not cooperating here. There,
There you are.
except with an ugly background. We can't have that now, can we? Not a lot to report this week, and working on some other work that I have to get out of the way. And my wife has been in the hospital most of the week, so that has taken away a lot of radio time, but I get to spend a lot of time staring out the window anyway, and keeping her company. So everything's fine now, but I should get back to it this week and make some progress for next week. So back to you, Dave.
Okay. And next on the list is Tom McDermott, N5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, good evening, Dave and everyone in the group. It's been pretty productive. I've got the FPGA reconfigured with all the I2C and SPI interfaces. That takes it up to 50% utilization of the logic elements on the Max 10. I was able to rebuild the software driver support package. There's a couple of different ways to do it, only one of which actually works. The others which only appear to work. Figured that out and was able to recompile the code, and the unit came back up running, so that's good. And I've been refactoring the C code to improve the local host to data engine protocol handling. It's much more modular now and a lot cleaner code. Still working on that. Next step will be to parse the module read and write commands, run those through a table to figure out what module slot and interface number correspond to which I2C or SPI interface on the board. So making progress on all fronts there. Back to the group.
Well, that's fine. That sounds like good progress. I see KJ6 MKI came in. You have any comments? Seems to be no reply. So I think we're open for general discussion.
So Jules, these conduits here, or these LBs, are any of those fittings NM type, or not NM, NPT type threads?
No, the idea with mounting on the LB box is that cover is removable. You can drill a hole that will, and the cover is thin enough that you can drill a hole, insert the connector, put the nut on the back with a gland, and in fact, you can epoxy the darn thing in because you got plenty of access. And then just screw the plate back on the LB box and you're all set.
So then these slip fittings here are PVC size?
Yes, they're all the slip fittings are exactly interchangeable with standard PVC water pipe.
Okay.
I had forgotten that until I just happened to be looking at some conduit sizes the other day, but they're identical.
And they do have a 1.5 inch one too, don't
Oh,
they?
yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Do you have any idea what they cost?
Yeah, I think they're about $10.
Hey, Nathaniel, they're located in Scranton, so you need to go down and get some samples.
Yeah,
That
Nathaniel,
would be really good.
Yeah, I've sent an email to find out what the local distributor is for. That's the rep for the company. And then I'm waiting for an email back to get the local distributors.
Okay.
Okay, so Arlington's
what's the name of Arlington?
Arlington.
Arlington. Yeah.
Arlington. in
I can
Scranton?
send you the link. Why don't I send it to you, Nathaniel, and you can
Sure.
see. Okay.
Stauffer Industrial Park. You know where that is?
No, I don't.
That's the only address it has.
What industrial park?
Stauffer, Stauffer.
Stauffer Industrial Park in Taylor. Okay.
It says it's in Scranton 18517. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's the next town over, Taylor. I mean, it's,
And then, like Jules says, I think that's the manufacturer. So they probably won't sell it to you direct.
okay. It looks like it's near the Walmart.
Okay, but is it near Home Depot to get the rest of the parts?
Yeah.
It is near the Walmart.
You know it, Jonathan? Jonathan's lived around here a lot longer than I have.
Yep. It's in Taylor. It's actually fairly close to the Taylor Walmart.
Well, that makes it very convenient for us to get those potentially.
It looks like overkill, but that it would work. Especially that 2-inch one. I mean, you look at when you get the link here. Let me share my screen here. This Jules sent me this anyway, so this link. So, but look how big the 2-inch one is. It's like
Wow.
It's the guy's hand. But so apparently all these ports here have, there's a table down here of all the various types you can get. So you can get aluminum ones for the aluminum one, and you get plastic for the plastic, you get slip and threaded.
Huh.
So make it LB, a T, a C, LRLL, all in one piece, all in one. And the plastic's probably cheaper than the metal, so.
Yeah, and this is you can buy individual LB styles, C, T, E, and so on and so forth. But this one is a universal. You can kind of turn it into anything you want,
And
which is nice because you can mount if you set it vertically, or well, let's say you set it vertically so the plate's on the side. You can use the opening at the top, put a plug in that, and then mount your level on that. Or whatever, whatever configuration you want. Since it has several flat sides, you can mount the level on the broadside and have sort of a T-shaped thing coming out from both ends. I mean, there's a variety of ways you can use this thing, and it's pretty flexible.
Does it have, it looks like it might have brackets on both sides, as well as the top plate.
Right.
End covers.
Yep.
And then does it have brackets on both sides or only on one? It's hard to tell.
One of the ones I was looking at has it on one side, and the other one of them had two square plates, or 3 square plates, excuse me, as opposed to what you're looking at in the upper right-hand corner where you have the plates that almost look like TO3 transistors.
My guess is that the smaller ones have the diamond shaped ones and the larger ones have the square ones.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact they have 1.5 inch is nice because that would exactly match the slip fittings on our PVC pipe.
Yeah. Includes 3 flanges with glue-in joints, 1.5. 934 NM. Well, that's easy enough to find. There you go. You can buy it on Amazon.
Okay.
Well, I don't. $28. Ah.
No, the one I was looking at was cheaper than that. Amazon is charging a lot.
Yeah.
And plus the fact you can buy them in bulk. So there's going to be what I was thinking of is if it works well enough, then, you could buy maybe 50 or more and have them in stock and just send it out to people who are building the kit.
Yeah, here's there you go. 100 for $1,300. But that's still more expensive than some of them down here. These, oh, this is the 1/2-inch one.
Yeah, but the price, I'll have to dig out the price I saw, but the price I saw for the unit was substantially, it might have been as high as 20 bucks, but when you think of what it gives you in terms of ease of use, it's almost worth it. Because right now we're fighting with how to actually mount, the best way to mount that connector, whether you use a plug or whether you use, there are several things that you and Dave Wog have come up with, but to me, this one looked like the most versatile thing to play with. Yeah, here's one. Okay.
So
1.5 inch, 16, 15, 65 each.
Right, and that probably comes with, see, notice that they're all square. So I'm presuming
Yes.
what we could do is we could take this off, put it over here, take the plate, put it on the end.
Yep.
And then take this one and put it on the top. And take the plate and put it over here, and then you got one that goes down and one that goes up. So this would go down to the main body, and
Yep.
then the other side would go up. Take this guy, put it up to the level.
Sure.
And then you take and the cover would face to the side. You just take it off for access.
Yep. And you can actually, the nice thing about this, you can use, because this is big enough, as I say, and the cover is thin enough that you can mount the waterproof connector right in one of the covers.
Well, how about you just take a gland nut and thread it in here and just use a coupler inside the housing?
Yeah, but then if you don't have to do threading or anything else and just drill a hole, stuff it in, put the
You
nut
don't have
on and epoxy it, you're all set.
If you could get a gland nut that would fit that thread, then you wouldn't have to do any drilling or anything.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, that's true. Oh, you can keep looking for that. But
But I don't know. This is, they call it NM thread. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Non-metallic.
Right,
Okay,
but
thanks.
so that would be if I were to get a no, non-metallic, wouldn't be the correct, because let's see, hold on a second.
Whatever, all as far as I know, the screws that are used in the plastic version are metal screws. We just want to make sure they're stainless and not and not anything, not straight steel, stainless or brass.
So I'm thinking that the conduit, the EMT conduit, whatever the couplers are for that whatever thread they use, that's what this guy is.
Right.
But the plastic ones, they come threaded, or are they all just slip? Because the only threaded ones I see are metal.
Right. As far as I know, all the plastic are slip because they're meant for the slip conduit sizes.
Okay. Okay.
In fact, I went to Lowe's today, just looking at standard LB boxes, LB conduit bodies, which have the same slip fitting, and they're all they are conventional, or they are compatible rather with the standard PVC slips.
Yeah, because they use the gray PVC, which is sized the same as the water.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, the only difference on the gray PVC is that the inside diameter is just a tad, just a few thousandths greater than the average diameter of the PVC water pipe.
Right, but the OD is the same, so all the
yes, the OD exactly same on all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, set screw for use with EMT. Interesting. Okay, that's for the metal ones. Well, it says 1/2 to 2 inch.
Yep.
Okay, but if you go down here, you can buy an aluminum 1.5 here. I bet that's real pricey though.
Yeah, I would think. And I'm not sure what the aluminum buys you.
Yeah, I don't think it buys you a lot. Maybe a century worth of weather resistance compared to only 90 years.
The other thing about the slip fittings that you could use possibly to thread something into it, since you can take it off the device or off the unit and work with it independent of the rest of the structure, it gives you a lot more flexibility to actually play around with mounting that connector.
Oh, right, because there's probably a rubber gasket here, so you could glue this together.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You could still take it apart.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, you could take the plate off and you can get it to the inside anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It gives you full access, which is
Full access. So that, I guess for if you're intending to just put it together and plant it in your garden and leave it, then this is maybe a little expensive option. But if you're planning to fool around with it and configure it and do things, then this is a good option because it gives you the most flexibility.
Yep.
It's just even at $15, that's a lot compared to a T. So
true, but when you think of the T plus the other, plus the plugs, plus, you know, there are a number of things that go into that T.
Yeah.
That because those, even a simple plug is a couple of bucks.
Right. Pretty much every fitting is $1.50 to $2.
Yeah.
So
what got me going on this particular thing was the 2-inch size initially, because I was looking for something a little different from the water T for the FlexGate unit I'm building up, but that's why I found these.
Yeah.
And I originally looked at the LB. The LBs are pretty cheap. I looked at an LB. The only thing, and you could do the same thing with the LB, except the problem is that most of them, if you don't get the T-type, most of them have a rounded top, so mounting the level on the top is a little
becomes
odd.
problematic, and they don't have opposite entrances.
That's right.
Put a pipe in the bottom, and what you'd want is a pipe in the bottom, a pipe out the top for the level, and then the door for the sensor.
Right, and that's a type C. You can get it, but the type Cs are available, it seems, mostly in the smaller sizes. I haven't found a good reliable source of the 1.5 inch or 2 in the C configuration of that box.
Yeah, and you're going to end up maybe not finding them, but it doesn't really matter whether they're available at the local places, because if we're going to sell a kit, we'll find out where they're available and we'll buy them there.
Sure.
That will be. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at these and they're all. Here's one that goes up to 1.25, but
right.
And then there's a 2-inch one. Oh, those are LBs though.
Yeah.
Type C's are not so common in big sizes. Yeah. Well, and here's one that goes up to $26. I bet it's got a big option, but 1.25, 1.5, $19.77. You're better off buying the other one. With the more, you get more options.
True.
That's at Lowe's, by the way. So that's just a straight through. Here, I'll show you again. That's the Lowe's one. That's a metal plate, so that's thin.
Yes. And that particular one is threaded, but
that's threaded, right?
But they do make a, you know, but I've seen the slip versions of those as well.
Yeah.
Problem is with the metal. Well, let's see, that's aluminum, I think, so that's probably okay. The aluminum plate.
That's plastic. The cover's aluminum, right?
Yeah.
And then all tons of different configurations. So.
Yep.
But again, the inexpensive parts are mostly, you know, 3/4, half one, small
right.
one.
Cantex is the brand that Lowe's carries typically.
Yeah, like this one here.
Yep.
That's a slip joint, isn't it?
Yes.
So that one would work if you wanted to put a plug in the side.
Sure.
And that's got a plastic cover, but it's probably relatively thin.
Yep. Yeah, no more, I'd say 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more than that, 3/16 maybe.
The other thing that might be a little trouble is there enough depth here to support the
connector?
bulkhead connector?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you get one of those in your hands, they're big.
Yeah, yeah. So that we'd have to check that, make sure that would work. But if Lowe's has these in stock, oh, they're better hurry. They're low stock, but there's some available locally here. So
okay, well, yeah, pick one up and try it.
Local store, yeah. So you can go try it out. I could just go look at it, see if it would work.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the size of the box is certainly big enough to hold that bulkhead connector.
Yeah. Okay.
And at 498, that's a 1.5 inch.
That's for a 1.5, yeah.
Yeah, but that price, I mean, you're basically equivalent to the water tee
Yeah. Where does
with a
this
lot, with a lot more accessibility.
Where does this say 1.5 inch? I don't see that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure it's not some half-inch thing. This is a small one, 3/4.
Oh, okay.
The
Well,
3/4.
they make them in all sizes. The question is, what do they have in stock?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Very good.
Anyway, it's another alternative.
Yeah, I'm being the cheapo. I'm looking for the most inexpensive alternative to do this, and that's readily available.
Right.
And and actually it doesn't have to be so readily available because we're going to buy them in bulk. So, but we have to be able to get them. So that's good. And
Yeah,
that might be a problem these days going and trying to buy 100 or something. They may look at you funny and not be, if they don't have the stock, you're out of luck.
Well, what I said to Arlington was that, that for the 1.5 inch size, we might be interested in buying something like 50 to 100 in the future. So let me know what you got.
Well, we're talking about a run of 500 boards, which would be 250 kits. So probably buy, because not everyone I'm presuming is going to buy a kit, so you might buy 200. What I'm thinking, depending on what the cost is, because we have to upfront the cost of that, and especially if we don't get a volume discount,
yeah,
I'm all for buying like 25 to 50 at a time. But if we can get a significant discount for buying 200, then we might be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, the aluminum covered one threaded comes in only 1/2 and 3/4. So, and it may be more of a Granger type of thing rather than a more of a DIY place.
Either Granger or your local electrical supply.
Yeah, yeah.
Like up here, it's a place up in Albany for Wahlberg.
Okay, yeah, we have Capital Electric, I think here is one of the ones we use. So, and I have a Granger's warehouse right like 2 miles from here.
Okay.
So, okay, cool. Thanks, Jules.
Can I break in? I want to ask JB a question.
Go ahead.
JB, for somebody who hasn't done a lot of, well, I've done a lot of FFT work, but I was looking at packages to integrate a GPU into the FFT. And I found one that was supposedly works with FFTW and GPU on supposedly Raspberry Pis. Have you looked at that one, or do you usually use CU FFT or something else? Is he there? He must be off wandering around or something.
Yeah, that's possible.
I do my best work when wandering.
So is Dan still here?
Hello, Dan. I saw him go unmuted for a second.
Dan is still here, yes.
Yes. Have you used any of the FFT GPU code?
What do you mean? I don't quite understand the question.
So I found a GitHub repository where they took FFTW and somehow integrate it with some GPU code so that some of the calculations were done in GPU.
Oh, okay.
I don't
No,
know if
I've
you,
not, but I do remember back in the NVIDIA Jetson days
yes.
that there was a lot of activity doing that.
Well, a lot of theirs, they use the NVIDIA proprietary FFT, which
Yeah.
is CUFFT, which
Um,
doesn't make it, unless you're using NVIDIA boards completely, it doesn't generally make it easy, but maybe it works fine if you have an NVIDIA graphics card. I don't know.
well, the Jetson, you know, had like it was like a board on or system on a board.
Well, I have a small Jetson, you know, the Nano. Actually, I
Yeah.
have the old Jetson from our open HPSDR days too. But,
Yeah.
and I've been thinking about, is there ways to integrate so that you could use most things that we use the FFTW3 interface.
Right.
So if you could have a library that took care of the work behind it. This is what I wanted to ask JB if he's around.
There might be like a CUDA library that does some of that stuff. We would do like a Google for CUDA FFT or something like that.
But you haven't done it yourself.
I have not, no.
No. And if JB comes back, I'd like to ask him that.
Dave?
Yeah.
Could I add something?
Sure.
Most GPU development, at least in the last 5 years, has been done with CUDA because it's easier, which actually, like you said, ties you to NVIDIA cards because they're the one that developed CUDA. AMD has got a new library that they're working on, but I'm not sure how stable it is. It's called ROCM. The last time I read about it, which was a while back, you could feed it CUDA code and it would do the conversion for you.
Okay.
But there is no generic GPU API.
Right.
You have to pick one or the other.
I did notice in this summer's GNU Radio conference, there was one talk on a guy that was using GPUs as buffers inside the GNU Radio package in the newest versions.
Yeah, I think I saw something about them trying to use GPUs for part of GNU. The biggest problem with that is latency, because you have to copy the data over, work on it, and then copy it back.
This does not do double copy. And that was one of the things that the author emphasized when he was speaking.
It'd be interesting how they did that because the memory is not shared on most GPUs.
Well, they had a way of using it as like a FIFO buffer, and they're basically a ring buffer. And that was the first attempt at adding that to the GNU Radio library.
Interesting. Did they do a session on the GNU conference?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it was Wednesday or Thursday.
I'll go take a look. I looked at some of those, but I didn't get through the whole week.
Yeah. So, and since JB was here tonight, I wanted to ask him because he seems to have done more of this than any of us.
Well, I was going to ask Scotty, how is the progress on the adapter board for the development board?
I've got the schematic all done. I have to make the last minute changes and check it over one more time. So kind of been stalled the last couple of weeks with the medical issues here. So
Yeah,
imminent, shall we say. And
that'd be great.
And yeah, so I'll let you know when I get the CAD guy started, because that's the next step, and getting a read in.
Okay.
And, because we're all funded and everything, so we just have to get going here. Been a little bit slow.
Because so then basically the route to getting a Tangerine prototype is getting that board done and then
And building
having,
the other two. Yeah, we have all the parts for those. So, however, there's going to be some change to the clock module. I'm glad that we waited, because we're going to move the mounting screw over.
Okay.
Then those two are really ready to go. And like I said, we have all the parts. So that's going to be just a turnkey. So I'm trying not to jump the gun on that, because if we find anything else, I want to be able to, excuse me, I want to be able to address that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then once we get that going, because I don't think the layout's going to be too difficult on this board, but that's what I thought about the data engine too. However, this is only like half of a data engine, because we only support one RF module. So that's going to make it a lot easier. And we have also, we have no physical constraints. We can make the board any size we really need to, because this is just going to be a test fixture. So I'm not going to constrain him down to 100 millimeters or anything like that, because that really adds to the time.
Right.
So the less constraints I give him, the easier it is for him. So
okay. That's good. And then after that gets produced, then the thing is getting the software up and running.
That's right.
But it sounds like Tom's making good progress on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the software, however, the hangup that we'll have is the actual data transport. We're going to have to write VHDL code to move the data around.
Yeah, and I can do that. That's on my plate to do that. So after the hardware's done, then that's the next task.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the point where once I have an adapter board and modules, I can read and write the registers. When we get to that point, we'll be a long ways along in making things go.
Is there a way you can do any testing, reading and writing the registers before we actually have a data path?
I don't know. I'd have to get to the pins on the connector to get some kind of scope probe on those itty bitty pins. So I'm not sure how to do that.
I think the best way to do it would be to put that on the test fixture, but I'm concerned with interrupting the flow of that path by putting big test pins on it. So what do you think?
Well, they're all slow pins. They're not running at fast clock rates or anything. And if the edges are tame, it should be okay. I just with the development board as is, I can't get in there with a scope and look at those pins.
Well, which pins are you talking about? Not the data input pins.
No, the I2C and SPI pins.
Oh, those. Okay, so I can put headers on there for those, so you can scope them.
Right. I'm not so much worried about that even. In order to test software, I'm going to need an adapter board. And in order to get a scope onto something, right?
Right, but assuming you get an adapter board, but before we actually have a data path through the FPGA, through the, well, let's see.
Yeah, so step one will be making sure the I2C and SPI interfaces can read and write the module registers. Step two then is once that's done, is to actually try to bring up the data path.
Right. So that was the question, is before you have the data path, what can you do? And would I2C scope ports help you at all? Because that's easy to add.
I don't think I need it, as long as on the adapter board, there's some connector pin somewhere big enough I can get a scope probe onto.
Well, that's just it. There isn't, because it goes directly from the connector to connector. So,
okay. Yeah, I mean, even just a via on the line would be good enough.
Well, I'm not worried about the I2C, because those are, I mean, he's going to spend his time making sure that lengths are matched, the impedances are correct for the data port.
Right.
But the I2C, I mean, we can bust those out and put a 10th inch header on them for all I care. It's very low speed.
Right, right. So for the data path, I'm not sure putting a scope on them is going to be helpful.
Right, so I won't worry about those, but the I2Cs, there's only a few of them, and they're only a couple of pins each, so.
Right, there's 5 I2Cs and 1 SPI.
Right. So very easy to slap a few 3-pin headers or 4-pin headers on. And
Right, right. And hopefully, if we have a module and it all works, the module will read back the correct information.
Right.
And we won't even need the scope probes on there.
The problem will be if it doesn't work, then what's broken, right? That's the.
Yeah.
But that's good because that's on the those I2C ports are on the other side of the FPGA from the Raspberry Pi.
Right. So yeah, I mean, to get to them, you have to send and receive UDP datagrams from the FPGA. The local host or the Raspberry Pi has to send and receive UDP datagrams to cause the I2C and SPI interfaces to toggle around.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be sending you something this week that has some updates on it, and hopefully it'll be good enough to go.
Yeah, I think I figured it out, except for the I2C interface being called SPI and the SPA interface being called SPI. That's the only thing that I found I couldn't figure my way around.
What happens when you have pins that can do either?
Right. Yeah. So anyway, to note or comment on that will probably help me preserve my sanity.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, all right.
Can I make a comment to anyone who's concerned with setting up conferences and whatnot in the foreseeable future?
Go ahead.
My brother just got back from I don't know if it's the AAVSO or some astronomy thing up in Boston, and they tried to do both live and video Zoom type interaction integrated thing for the whole deal, and it was a terrible mess. Nobody seemed to know how to make it work, and the tools just didn't seem to be there, and it was very distracting.
So what was the biggest problem with it? Because I am a person who's thinking about putting together a conference.
I thought you were.
Foreseeable future.
Yeah, I thought you were, and I can't give you, his full. There were lots of problems with like sizing. When they'd have someone presenting from remotely, like they had people in France who were presenting, and getting that.
Well, the problem is they were presenting with an A4 screen.
Is that, yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know.
At 50 hertz.
But the new radio conference just did a hybrid live and in person. Does anyone know did that work out okay? Did they have similar issues?
They didn't have as many issues, but they had lots of hour and a half long breaks between talks.
Okay.
So Dave, did they use Zoom for their conference, or what software did they use? Do you know?
I believe it was Zoom.
No, I mean, I was checking to ask Dave Whitten for the one that didn't work out. What did they try to do?
That's a good question. I had the impression that it was Zoom, but I didn't ask the right questions. I should say that my brother was actually there in person in Boston, not watching it online. But for the people in person, it was evidently not. The aesthetics were way off.
I think my idea for how to do it would be to have one computer at the front. We have all of the stuff preloaded on there, and that computer's basically sharing its screen using Zoom. And then if we have people who are remoting in, they just share their screen via Zoom and it shows up on that computer. And then for handling questions, I think I would get a student or a volunteer to sit up toward the front of the room on another laptop, and they would monitor the chat window, like be a Zoom moderator. And then again, have that person in the room be the voice of the people who are remote.
Also, be sure you have enough bandwidth.
Yeah,
Of course.
Your normal bandwidth in a meeting, unless it's on a work facility that has good internet or network connections.
Make sure you know what the bandwidth is in both directions.
Yes,
Mhm.
because you've got to pump an awful lot of data in and out.
Yeah, so basically, Nathaniel, then it would be a Zoom conference, but then the live portion would be just another Zoom user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking of it.
For the other Zoom users who are remote, it looks to them just like a Zoom conference, only one of the guys happens to be in Charlotte. Okay.
Right.
But then the guys who are in Charlotte, the 50 people that you've got sitting at tables there in Charlotte have got to be able to see the Zoom screen when the remote guy logs in. So then you basically just take those and project them up on two projectors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm part of a number of clubs that have been doing that and reasonably successfully. Both radio club in Boston area regularly does live and remote together, and then the Springfield telescope makers, Stellafane, we do that regularly nowadays. And as you say, there's one camera, one machine that is the live meeting, and but presentations are done by screen share.
So then how much extra bandwidth would that machine require than just a regular normal connection?
Not really anything more.
You just want to make sure you have adequate bandwidth for everybody in the room.
Well,
So
but
like
everybody in the room is only one connection.
No, it's just one connection.
You know, I understand that, but everyone in the room might be deciding to take their own laptops out and looking up their own stuff while the other talk's going on.
What you want is a dedicated wired connection for that guy, and then the Wi-Fi for everyone else is throttled somehow to not hog all the hotel's bandwidth.
Right.
Yeah, because like at the DCC, it's like that. It's like everybody has a laptop, right? So they're all surfing while you're talking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I guess speaking of conferences, I guess we're almost out of time, but we're looking at having the HamSCI workshop at the Marriott Hotel in Huntsville, which is right next to the US Space and Rocket Center. And the reason for this is that there's a few reasons. Bill Engelke wanted to have it down in Alabama, and so he had volunteered to help put it together. So that's one of the reasons we're looking at Alabama. The second reason is, well, once he said that, we realized that, you know, NASA Marshall Space Flight Centers in Alabama in Huntsville as well. And, you know, Phil Erickson and I, we just got a NASA grant. And so it seemed like it would be a nice connection to, you know, further the NASA connection. So by having it down there, we've gotten in touch with the NASA people, and they're actually really excited about having the HamSCI workshop there. And then Huntsville also has a strong amateur radio community because they have the Huntsville Ham Fest and all that. And so some of those people are pretty excited about it as well. And so the Marriott, I guess I can show you the grounds. So if I go to maps.google.com and you go to Huntsville Marriott. So here it is.
Yeah, you can walk from the hotel to the museum and Rocket Center from the hotel.
Which that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So here's the Marriott. Yeah, here's the Rocket Museum. So
It would be at the
the
Marriott?
other night. What's that?
All the presentations would be at the Marriott then?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we had
I
the HamSCI conference was there 2 years ago, and we had all the presentations at the Marriott, which worked out pretty well.
yeah. I talked to the museum about possibly having the presentations at the museum, but there's a lot of issues with that. One place they have is this Education Resource Center, which used to be owned by NASA, but now it's run by the museum. And they sent me pictures of it, and it just really, I don't think is adequate for what we need. So if I go here, Huntsville Space and Rocket Center. Yeah, these were pictures. This was the meeting hall inside of the educational teaching training facility. And I just didn't think that this was adequate for.
That looks like about 75 people maybe.
Yeah, I think they said it's 125, and that's during non-COVID times. And this building, this is a classroom that's separated by a removable wall from the auditorium here. So yeah, that classroom's right behind this movable wall.
I counted the seats, there's only 102.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick, it's 17 by 6, I think.
But yeah, there really wasn't anything. And then if you go there, there's no place to eat there. So they could do like boxed lunches in there, but there's just, it really wasn't adequate.
So Tom, when that was there, how many people did they have?
I'd say we used that room that Nathaniel showed the photograph of for some of the sessions. And I would say we had maybe 75 to 100 people in there.
Do you think it was good?
To me, the facilities were acceptable. I didn't find them to be poor quality or anything.
Yeah.
I thought they were fine, but probably more than about 75 or 100 would get pretty crowded. And the food situations, like you said, I don't think they had it there. We had a banquet at the museum, and which was rather nice. But we had most of the food at the hotel.
Where did you have the banquet at the museum?
They had the big main hall where the Saturn V rocket is laying on its side. We had it in there, and the museum set it up with tables and chairs.
Okay, like this.
Yes, that's the place.
Yeah, so we can do that, but we have to rent the hall for $3,600.
Right.
And would that handle more than 100 people?
Oh, that'll handle 800 to 1,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like really going for it here.
Yeah. So I'm sure the hotel must have facilities bigger than for the conference.
Yes. So the hotel facilities are nice. Marriott event space floor plan. So they have all of these meeting rooms here. So I'm sure.
And they can take the walls down and make them bigger, right? So they.
Right. Yeah. You could probably like put these two together, and you could have that be the main auditorium, and then you could have these two be the poster sessions and the demo room. And the other thing that was nice about the hotel is from talking to one of the hams he's both an very active ham and a NASA Marshall employee. He was saying they could probably set up a special event station out here and do some live demos with antennas. Maybe we could have a grape station running out here or something like that with all of this space out here. So like that's another advantage to the hotel over here.
They don't have a ham club, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Put something up there. That would be pre-set up.
Oh, NASA Marshall?
Well, at the facility there in Huntsville, is there a ham station for the NASA club? There is a NASA club, right?
Yeah, this is the NASA club right here. Well, doing anything with like on NASA property is going to be very difficult because like right now they're still doing like hybrid type of operation with most people not going into the actual office. And it's located on the Redstone Arsenal. So I think there's just a whole bunch of bureaucratic problems with getting people onto the property.
Yeah.
I don't think would make it work for a meeting. But this is the NASA call sign NN4SA. They could set up a special event station in the parking lot out here and use that NASA call sign.
And that would get more attention anyway.
Yeah, one of the events that we did was a balloon with a radio tracker attached, a balloon launch from the parking lot outside the hotel.
Okay.
And that was a pretty popular event. The guy gave a talk about how do you build a tracker that weighs 12 grams and have it powered up for a couple of weeks. And then after the talk, we all went out to that big parking lot and launched the balloon.
Nice. So, yeah, so we could do stuff like that if we have it here. I think one of the things I'm kind of struggling with right now, when I had it planned at Scranton, one of the nice things about having it at the university is the catering was very inexpensive by comparison. Because I guess they're not like a for-profit type of operation and there weren't additional service fees and things like that. So I was able to get basically all of the food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Friday and Saturday for like under $150 per person. And that was like a hot breakfast, coffee breaks, cookie breaks, all that stuff.
Oh, that's like half the price of DCC.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when the Scranton catering prices were just insanely low. So here we don't have that. So now I'm dealing with, where's my spreadsheet that I was working on with this?
But if you get a NASA grant and you bring the business back to the NASA headquarters, they should appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think you're.
Who would appreciate that?
Well, you're bringing business back to the community that's sponsoring you, although I guess the funding doesn't come from these guys anyway. These guys get their funding from the government, right?
Right. So, I mean, well, so here's the thing. I have an NSF grant that will pay for some of this. And what I traditionally do in the past, what I've done is I've taken the NSF grant and I've tried to fund, pay for the travel for as many people as I possibly could that I believe were making good contributions to the project and could use the funding. And that's how I did it. And, I was able to make that stretch fairly far. And it's just, the cheaper I can make it, the more people I can fund, one. And then two, the other thing is I also want to make it so that the people who are in Huntsville, like other hams who just live around the area who might want to come, I want to make it so that they can afford it too, even if they're not, funded. If they just want to, if you're just an average ham and you want to come see this. you know, so, but these are the numbers I was looking at today. So it's this column here, because this is the list price of the meal or the breakfast, and then there's a 22% service charge that's taxable, and then there's a 9% tax on these two things. So then, you know, you're looking at $33.25 for scrambled eggs, potatoes, and bacon for breakfast. You know, almost $7 a person for coffee, $43 for lunch. So it just adds up really
And what
fast.
we ended up doing, we didn't do breakfast for DCC, but we do lunch. We do lunches, and you can see the cost of the lunch. The conference fees ended up subsidizing the lunches. It was the opposite of what you really wanted to be. So that the people who signed up for lunch were actually getting a deal better than the people who didn't, because part of their conference fees are going to lunches anyway. So,
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'd like it to not be that way, but the food keeps getting more expensive. So,
right. So I mean, so yeah, maybe the thing to do. So I guess that's where one of the things I was going to ask is like, should I just like not do breakfast and put more money into lunch?
well, the question is, what facilities are available for the users, for the attendees? Because breakfast is easy. You can get up earlier and go to breakfast. But lunch is constrained because you've got presentations that end and then they start again, and you've got this 1 hour, typically 1 hour. And if there's no other place to go, and if there's like one restaurant, you know, 75 people show up at that restaurant, you're not getting out in an hour. So that's kind of why we did the lunches, and we let the dinners and the breakfasts. I mean, other than the banquet.
Yeah, with that hotel, there's nothing really within walking distance. If you want to go to a different meal facility, you got to drive.
Right.
And how close
that's
is it?
not.
And how many are there? Is it just like one or two restaurants, or is there a cluster of them that you can pick from?
There's a mall nearby and a cluster of restaurants.
Okay. So you could theoretically drive somewhere and get back in an hour, or not?
It would be tight.
Yeah, that's kind of why we opted for lunches, to include lunches, but not the breakfast and dinners.
So maybe that
might be a way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing to do.
And I would say some people don't eat breakfast, and actually, does the Marriott include breakfast or a continental breakfast with their rooms? They might do that, in which case you really don't need a breakfast. The people who want a big breakfast will have to go take care of it.
Right.
And then the people who settle for, a roll and some coffee and some juice, that they're taken care of already.
Yeah, I don't think they do. Let's see. So I don't know if guest room 2 queen select member rate pay non-refundable.
It'd probably be under because it's probably for everyone.
Yeah, but for a conference, you'd normally get a block of rooms at a lower price, but that would be without the breakfast, because they want you to do the breakfast, just like we're talking about.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Except if we don't arrange the breakfast, then they have no incentive to I mean, other than going to the restaurant, they don't have any incentive to use our breakfast because we aren't offering it. I mean, no DCC I've ever gone to offered breakfast, so it's and it was okay.
That may be the thing. Yeah, it's just so expensive.
The lunch is useful because that everybody has their lunch at the same time. They're rigged to serve 100 people.
Well, and look at this too. I mean, if we don't at this hotel breakfast buffet fee from $17, is that? Well, that's probably the continental breakfast.
That's cheaper than your breakfast, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So I think we're probably better off not
letting everyone go get their own. Yeah.
Yeah, just let everyone go get their own, do their own thing for breakfast, and then we could do the lunches. What did you have to charge for the registration fee for the DCC? Like what were you covering?
Typically, well, you mean as far as what it actually covered, what the fee covered?
Yeah.
It basically covered just the conferences, and then lunches were separate and the banquet was
Right.
separate. So it covered
Right.
just the talks alone.
Yeah.
And like I said, the lunch was separate. We offered no breakfast, and we offered the banquet one night. And then we
Yeah.
have the Friday night social, which was kind of like a hors d'oeuvre kind of thing, but there was enough food there you could eat dinner there if you wanted to, and that was free. So we ate that. I mean, we provided that. That came out of the conference fees.
Yeah. Yeah. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, and it's just a nice kind of a stand up or sit in the hallways and lobbies, and or maybe there's a patio and just chat with people, a social thing with food. So the idea is to make it so you don't have to go out, so you can stay in and you can talk to the people that you want to talk to at the conference.
So we could do.
It works pretty well, but it's, and I think it started out in Tucson. And I don't remember exactly how they got the idea that we should do this and make it free. Because it was like a buffet kind of thing. They had 2 or 3 setups. They had one like a barbecue setup. They had one with sandwiches. They had one. It wasn't like like that, like what you're looking at. But there was no like prime rib or any dinner kind of things like that.
Right. At the end here, they have hors d'oeuvres. Let's see. I thought they had an hors d'oeuvre. Okay, plated dinners.
And it was not that. So
it was not that.
Basically, what they did is they brought in a bunch of chefs with a stand, and each chef had their own specialty kind of thing, and it was kind of like made to order, but it was each chef had his own limited thing that he would do. So I mean, like the skewers there. So you might have a table of vegetables and meats, and you get to pick that and skewer them, and then you hand them to the chef, and he would cook it for you.
Right.
That kind of thing.
That's pretty cool.
And it works okay up to about 75 to 100 people. If you get more than that, it's going to be a little hard because it gets big. Because you got to have enough lines. You can't put everybody in one line. So you got to have multiple lines, which is what we had.
Right. So here's you can do these pre-built packages, so you get an hour of service time. $25 per person. 2 hot, 2 cold items. And
yeah, I can ask Steve how he did that, because he was the one that's arranged all the socials since Tucson, because that's been since 2012 or something. I don't remember when Tucson was.
Yeah.
In 10 years or so, he arranged all of them. But
yeah,
I don't remember a per person charge, because that's really hard to do. It's kind of
right.
like, we have a room, and if you come in with your badge, then you're entitled to come in. So how many people come in? Some people don't show up at all.
Yeah.
So and there were no tickets for it. It was just like, there it was, your badge is your ticket.
Right.
So it could be that Steve actually arranged for a $1,000 spread or something, and then that was the cost of what it was.
Yeah, that would be nice to do something.
Or we could say, say we get 100 people to sign up, we could say, okay, we're going to pay for 75, because statistically that's what we think is how many are going to show up. And then if you run out of food, well, we run out of food. If we have extra, well, then we paid for extra.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a possibility. I think one of the things that's a little funny is in some ways, like since I try to run this off of the NSF grant in a lot of ways, the business model is a little bit different, but Um,
Well, what, because it's more of a
Maybe-
fixed price?
yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it's not really. I mean, yeah,
Well, kind
no,
of like, because you
no.
don't really care how many people show up, you just want to have enough food for everyone.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not really on a per person basis as much as it is a, here's the
Yeah,
stuff, have at it.
but you really do have to do that
Yeah, because you have to know how much food to tell them to fix.
to fix. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I can talk to them tomorrow about that. But it,
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they have a cafeteria like, kind of like Scranton has, except would be problematic to get us all onto that facility, so that wouldn't work.
right.
probably.
Well, the over here they have a cafeteria or a food court.
Because we can certainly have lunch and just have it be over there, or have the social be over there, or something like that. That's easy walking distance.
Yeah, I don't know that you'll make it if you only have an hour for lunch though. See all the presentations. You go over here and then you go back over there. That's gonna be by the time you walk over here, figure out where you're going, get your lunch. It's gonna be time for the talks again, and you won't have time to eat. And
So maybe it's
where you're gonna miss.
the social thing might be a better fit for that. Walk over there,
Yeah.
hang out. When you're done, go back to your hotel room, and that's the end of the evening.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
know if that's the kind of thing that they would do.
May I
Right.
interject a question, please?
Sure.
When is this going to happen? Because I want to come there. I want to come to this.
March 17th through 20th.
Okay, in Huntsville.
Yes.
All right, I'll be there.
Wonderful.
Notice he didn't say how much he's willing to pay. So there you go. You have.
There you go.
But
we want to make it. We want to make it such a good event that people just want to come, right?
That's right. Because like
Yeah.
the new radio conference is about $400 just for the conference, and we're in the order of like 175 at DCC. So I mean, we're
Yeah.
half of what they were.
Hmm.
Not to say that we should charge that high amount, but it's just that,
Well, that's the thing
gotta pay for
for
itself.
me, like, because I do want to make it something that locals can come to. You know, if I could get it down to where I basically just charged, really separate out the food and say, okay, if you just want to come hear the talks, it's, $7 plus $8, it's $15 for the coffee and the cookies.
Yeah.
And, an extra $5 for your name badge. So you're looking at somewhere between $20 for a day or $40 for the 2 days.
Do they
That
have,
makes it a lot more. What's that?
do they have a limit though? Because I mean, typically what happened with us is they'd have these charges, but then they'd say, food charges minimum $15,000.
Well, that I have to find that out tomorrow.
And so you look at these prices and you go, oh, these are really high, but then you multiply them times 100 and you come up with 10K, and then you find out there's a $15,000 minimum, and then all of a sudden you have to add on more people to come up to the minimum. And
Yeah,
then
but the
conference
thing,
fees go up.
well, but the thing is, let's say that everyone I fund through the grant, they get food. And I cover the first, and the grant's covering the first $10,000 or $12,000 in food, and then I only need to come up with $3,000 more.
Yeah.
I'll sell that many tickets.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm saying my business model is a little bit different, because I have the grant. I don't have to
Right.
I can potentially cover that first
We
overhead cost.
don't have that basic starter cost in a grant, so we can't do that.
Right. Yeah. So I have the basic starter cost, so I can potentially get over that hump and then make it cheap for, other people in the area who just want to come hear a couple talks.
It's just that I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I don't think this is the whole picture. So there's other things that are going to be. And then, of course, you'll have, for the meeting rooms, you'll have to have a minimum hotel nights, minimum number of people staying in the hotel. which probably is not a problem if you get a good rate. I mean, I know at Charlotte for next year, we've got such a fantastic rate that you'd be crazy to stay anywhere else because you're not going to find anything that's going to come close to that price.
Yeah.
And if you do that, well, they're all going to stay at the Marriott. So that means you're going to get your room nights really easy.
Right. So, yeah.
And then the room
And
nights get you your meeting rooms. So
Mhm.
you get whether you get them for free, basically, if you have so many room nights.
Right. The room nights and the food minimums.
Yeah, the room night, yeah, and it's I mean, if we can get together with Steve, who's done this a lot of times, and maybe help out a little bit in the in how it works, because I'm helped with a few, but I'm by no means the expert like Steve is, who's done it so many times. But it's all
Yeah.
trade-offs. I mean, like at the hotel that we had, just as an example, they had a I think it was $10 per day per person Wi-Fi fee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you add this up, and it's like let's see, 150 people times $10 times 3 days is like almost $5,000
Yeah.
for Wi-Fi fees. And you know us, everybody's going to want Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so what he did is he negotiated more meal fees in exchange for free Wi-Fi for us. And so and it's all negotiable, so you can, whatever's important to you, you can focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we try to charge people $10 a day for wireless access, we'd have a revolt. I mean, nobody's getting.
Well, I wouldn't tell them were getting charged $10 a day for Wi-Fi. I would just roll it into the registration.
You just roll it in, but still, that's another $5,000. That's
yeah.
So basically, for every person signing up, you'd have to charge $30 just for the Wi-Fi for 3 days, and then
right. That's right. It's per day.
Yeah. So it was. I think that was bogus, because I think they did that just as a negotiating tactic to get something on one of the other line items, because it seemed to me that it was not a reasonable fee.
Yeah. So next year I'm having it at the university.
All right.
Because the university doesn't charge for Wi-Fi. The university doesn't have food minimums. The university doesn't charge service charges on all these things.
Maybe we should have the DCC there next year too.
It's possible. We would. I mean, the universities, it's a good model. I know when I had it at NJIT and I had it at Case, it worked out really nicely. And you just get a professor or some people who work there who are willing to like sponsor you. And then you get all these
well, it would seem like, would you rather go to Boston and pay $400 for the conference, or would you rather go to Scranton and pay $150?
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the trade-off you have to make, because I know we really wanted to go back to the West Coast, and we had some good people who are willing to help us, because it's always, you have to have a good ground crew when you move around like we do. And so we had a good ground crew that tried to get it in the Pacific Northwest, but the contract that they negotiate was just too expensive. And we just couldn't do it. We with a number of people that signed up, we just couldn't do it. And so they got all mad, because it was like they felt that we were giving them, they were experienced. We knew them, and we knew that they could do a good job, but that wasn't the issue. The issue was we couldn't make the budget work.
Right.
So it's all got to work. Otherwise it doesn't work. So
yeah.
Kind of a duh statement, but it's, and I know this is true. We have our cat club, cat shows. I used to participate in that. And a lot of people think that you have this unlimited budget when you do a show, and you can just buy anything you want.
Yeah.
Then, dinners are unlimited, and, funds are, and it's not true. It's actually worse, because you got to make the books balance unless you want to bring your own checkbook in, and that's, you can't do that. But it's kind of scary when you sign up and you got to get 300 room nights, and there's only 100 people showing up, and it's a 3-day conference. That's like, ooh, that means everybody's got to stay at the hotel.
Yeah.
Is that really going to happen or not? And then, of
Mhm.
course, if you don't make the room nice, then, heinous penalties are incurred.
Mhm.
So that's why, like you said, doing it at the university where the costs are all known and there's no
Mhm.
like minimums and stuff like that. To me, that's a
And they
lot more desirable.
and the universities have a different mission. They're not trying to make their money doing, off of these conferences the same way. Like they see the conferences more as, they make maybe a little bit of money off of it, but then it's good advertising for the university because
Yeah.
then they become better known and hopefully they
Don't
attract
go in the red, but
students.
you really don't need to make a big profit because you're doing a community service and a university service, right?
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. When you go to the universities, the admissions, they want to have a table there.
Yeah, right. But it's like the physics radio camp, right?
Right.
It's like you're not looking to make a big profit. You're looking to
Right.
get the mission, the
Mission of the
statement out.
university.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're able to just, yeah, we got those rooms for free. We paid, it was like $13 a person for lunch or something.
And it was a great lunch. So
It was a great lunch. It was easy to get to.
it worked out really well. So a DCC like that would be perfect.
Yeah.
It's just too bad that you got another event there that weekend this year.
I know. Next year.
But so what? I thought Bill wanted to do it at the University of Alabama.
Well,
not at but you're thinking just because Huntsville's close and they're all excited, that would be a better choice.
Yeah, so after I talked with Bill a little bit more, there were a couple of things that came up about the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Two main things. One is Tuscaloosa is apparently 65 miles from the nearest airport.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And the second thing is it's their spring break. And so Scranton, so apparently different universities have different rules about spring break. So Scranton was perfectly happy to run catering and do all this stuff over spring break. University of Alabama said, we don't do any of this stuff during spring break. So
they've all gone to the beach. Believe me,
Yeah.
every single last one of them.
Oh, down to Florida, right? Because isn't that the big
down
party?
to Seagrove Beach and down there, Panama City. It's
Fort Lickerdale, as they say.
Yep. Believe me.
Yeah. So so that's too bad that they all leave. But it's like, oh well.
Yeah.
I guess it's
Will there be a call for papers?
Yes, there will.
When do you expect that to come out?
It'll probably come out in like December. Probably as soon as I get this whole hotel contract worked out and we have that all set, then we can put the website together and have the call for papers. We did have, as Scotty alluded to, I actually had a whole set of contracts and everything set up to have this in Scranton this year, but another event came up in the same hotel that we were going to use that I just can't, that one took precedence. I had no power over it. So totally outside of my control. So we have to go somewhere else.
Hate it when that
But
happens.
yes.
Huntsville is fine. I like the South.
Here's what I'm hoping. I put in for a grant, an ARDC grant asking for antennas and a ham radio station for Scranton. And I'm really hoping that is approved. And if so, I'm really hoping that gets installed before we have the HamSCI workshop at Scranton. So
But you got a whole extra year now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, maybe this is okay.
So there's a precedent for that, is there not, Nathaniel?
Yeah, there's more than one precedent for that.
Okay.
So I'm crossing my fingers. We put in for we asked for a lot. So
Well, but even if you get it, it's going to take you a while to buy all that stuff and install it.
yeah, oh yeah. Oh, it'll take a
The
while.
better part of a year probably to do that.
Probably. Yeah. So I think the best I can hope for, like the best I could hope for would be that it gets approved within the next month or so. And then we aim to just build it out this summer.
Well, how long have you had it in?
Well, I had a version of it in the beginning of this summer, and then but I submitted a revised version November 5th. So
Okay.
the revised version's been in 10 days.
But you said the other part you put in at the beginning of the summer?
Yeah, but they asked me to redo it.
Oh, okay. So the revision was at their request. Okay, so but that's good. That means they looked at it at least.
Oh yeah, they basically told me I wasn't asking for enough.
Now that's a good sign.
I just hope I didn't overshoot.
Yeah. It's funny you should
But-
say that, because we've had contracts too where they can't tell you that, but they can say, are you sure that that's enough? And they ask kind of questions. Well, don't you want that too? And don't you need this? And
Yeah.
did you take that into account? And I know because we'd actually bid on the LED lighting on the KC-135. Okay, on the tanker. My company designed and built the prototype, and we then quoted, production, like modifying all the aircraft, right? And the guy comes back and he says, this is not right. You're not including enough things.
Right.
Obviously, with the price that you quoted us, you don't know what you're doing. So, go back over it again and figure out, don't forget all these things. And then he told us a bunch of things that, of course, we had forgotten. And he didn't tell us you had to do this. He just said, did you include? And then he gave us a list of these tasks that we had to make sure we included. So
yeah,
that was helpful, as opposed to just saying, okay, you're the lowest bidder, you're in. And then we have to do all these things and we wouldn't have a budget for it, which would be.
Do you know the Linux command or Unix command fortune?
No.
So if you type, fortune. So every time I log into
yes, it comes up with a little fortune cookie thing when you log in.
Yeah, so every time I log in, I have a little cow that says, it tells me a fortune.
Where do they get these things?
So
that means you're going to jump into the Scranton River or whatever and drag someone to shore, even though it says warning alligators.
Yeah. So every time I log into my Linux machine, my cow gives me some bit of wisdom. and one of the days it said, if you want to spot the expert, pick the person who charges the most amount of money and says the project will take the longest.
I like it.
So
the one I'd heard is that if you want to get something done, hire a busy person.
Yep.
Because the people who aren't busy are sitting around twiddling their thumbs.
Yeah.
Like while I've been talking to you, in case you haven't noticed, which you probably have, I appear to be busy. I'm doing manual labor. I'm scraping off toroids, hot glue off of toroids with my knife.
Nice.
Which is pretty mindless until you slip and stab yourself while you're not looking.
Yeah. Well, I might say 73 for tonight. We'll work on this hotel contract and try to get it to be something that will work for us.
So can we have a HamSCI conference in the West sometime ever?
Yeah.
Like in 2024 or something? We should have it in Phoenix or San Diego or someplace out here.
You want to host it?
Yeah, I could do that. By
Yeah,
then, I
can-
should have got the FPGA code done. So
You you can, yeah, you can get you could have it at Arizona State University.
do you know any contacts there that I could use to? Because I don't have any contacts anymore.
We have 2 years to find them.
Okay. Yeah, because we were
Don't
talking
they
about
have-
doing one in Tucson because it was the 40th anniversary of Tapper, which is now past. But
Doesn't-
Tucson's like University of Alabama. It's hard to get to. It's not.
Doesn't Arizona State have a ham radio club?
Sort of.
Yes,
sort
they
of.
do.
It comes and goes.
W7ASU.
Yeah, it comes and goes. And I don't know how many students they're in it this year. Sometimes it's one.
Uh-huh.
I do know the trustee though.
Well, that's a good start for,
Is the trustee. So yeah.
and I've worked them on the air. They always seem
So
to
have
be
I,
involved in
yes.
contests.
Uh,
So I mean,
just to add a data point, April 2024 is a solar eclipse. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, which means all this should have to be done before then, well before that.
well,
Right through the Midwest.
we typically have this in March.
So we can have a big celebration pre-eclipse, you know, that everything's working, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Looks like it may come close to Scranton.
yeah, I think it goes right through Case Western, right through Cleveland.
So maybe it's better to have it there instead of out here.
No, don't do that. Not Cleveland. I left Ohio. I don't want to go back.
We've had it
Yeah,
there
we've
once
had it-
already.
We've had a case, that was an excellent one.
It was good. I mean, it might make sense with the eclipse, but I do take your point. We do need to have a West Coast.
So where
HamSCI.
does it come from out west? What's the track?
Comes in through Texas.
Oh, it goes
Texas up
northeast.
through New York and Vermont.
Yeah.
So we
There's
could
a
have
map for it.
We could have it in Austin.
Let me look. Right, well, just to the west of Austin's the main track.
Really, Austin sounds interesting.
Yeah, it goes right over Austin then, right near it.
Wow, that would be interesting.
How about Texas A&M? Where's College Station? I think it's a little bit south of there.
It's between Houston and Austin.
Yeah, it's between, but it's more northwest of Houston, if I remember right. It's a College Station. So anyway, general area. That's the total path, right, Nathaniel, that you're showing?
Right here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Red is center line, blue is the outer limit.
okay, there we go. You got some cities on it. Hold on. Goes right through Dallas, right? Yeah, between Dallas and Austin. College Station is too small to be shown on there, but it'd be close enough.
It probably goes right over Waco. What is that? Baylor?
Cleveland isn't a good location for that.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's
I mean, you kind of can't beat that.
Okay, let's see. Cleveland, Waco, St. Louis is pretty close. Columbus, Dayton is in path of totality. Cincinnati also.
Yeah.
it's just right on the edge.
There you go, Buffalo, right dead center. This is in April, right? Buffalo's not too bad in April. If you like snow.
I vote Austin.
Yeah, we were trying to getting a Western thing. So how about Mazatlan? There you go, right through the center.
You know, if we really went Western, we could go to either Alaska or Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Hawaii's good.
Hawaii. We can go to WWVH.
Yeah. That'd be a cool, we could arrange a tour of that as part of the.
Which island's that on?
Kauai.
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
We could set up a little tent right on the beach here. We can give our
guess it-
presentations.
Kauai has some really excellent beaches too.
You can measure the Doppler from the last 100 feet of the signal. Not much Doppler in the ground wave, is there? Or it's that wouldn't even be
Yeah.
a ground wave. That'd be a direct wave somehow.
Line of sight.
Line of sight. Hey, there you go. There's Captain Kirk.
That would be considered ground wave.
What is this you're looking at, Nathaniel?
This is the Google image search results for WWVH.
Oh, okay.
Is it on the west side?
That's the Kauai, for Kauai, that's the least populated area. The dry, is it, I forget, it's the dry side, right?
So that would be the leeward side, right? The eastern shore. So I know on Oahu, the northwestern shore gets all the storms, right? Because it's westerly winds there. So the rain gets dumped mostly on the western shore and not on the eastern shore.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the southwestern shore.
That's the wet area?
That's where the coffee is.
And where the transmitters are?
Yeah. Well, according to Google Earth. I thought there was a military base over there somewhere.
On Kauai?
Oh, there's an airport. Didn't SpaceX do some test launches out there somewhere early on?
Let's see. Hickam is on Oahu.
Well, I think I'm gonna say 73 for now and try to get some sleep.
And did you, Nathaniel,
yeah,
HamSCI on this week, or it's canceled 2 weeks from now because that's Thanksgiving, right?
That's right. So I think it's not on this week. So I think we'll just wait till
December 2nd.
December. Yeah. Because when I get those extra hours of time, I really make good use of them.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
And there's always things to do.
So like, didn't you get an extra hour of no, you got an hour taken away for daylight savings time, didn't you?
No, you get the extra hour for the fallback. But I've used that extra hour already.
Yeah. What's interesting, when I was on the ship and we were going across the Pacific, and it took 6 days or 7 days to get across, we would have six out of 7 days would be 25 hours.
Huh.
And then we were coming back. We stopped in Hawaii, so it was a little bit, they split it up a little bit, but then there were 23-hour days, consecutive ones. And I can tell you, it is so weird. 1 hour a day, 25-hour days were just what I wanted. They're perfect. And I think I understand now why I don't sleep right now. It's like being permanently jet lagged because my clock says 25 hours. Because when I had those 25-hour days, it seemed like I had tons of extra time. Just 1 hour a day. And then coming back, it was horrible because you felt like you got up and it's time to go to bed. And then as soon as you went to bed, it's just time to get, and it was, and of course, what they do on the ship, which is really will mess with your head, since they can't put 1 hour on one shift, they break it up into 3 20-minute pieces. And I'm not kidding, they have a guy go around the ship and set all the clocks 20 minutes ahead, and then another 20 minutes ahead. So they said at midnight, let's see if I get this right, at 8 p.m., midnight, and 4 a.m., they do 20 minutes a shift, a piece. So you get an hour the whole day, but that means each of the 4-hour shifts only has to spend 20 extra minutes on shift.
Okay.
Otherwise, one poor guy would get the whole hour, and he'd have a fit. So they can't do it that way. And the same coming back when you had 23 hours, each guy gets an extra 20 minutes less.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come out of your room in the middle of the night and go in the lounge and look at the clock, and then you look at your watch, you go like, what? It's off by like 20 minutes or 40 minutes. It's really bizarro.
Wow.
So
You may need to move to Mars, Scotty.
why is that?
Their day is 37 minutes longer.
Oh, perfect. See, I could try that here and see what happens. But then, every day it would get later and later and later, and pretty soon you'd wrap around. Ever since I was a kid, my mom never understood that I was a late person and I didn't like to get up early in the morning. I like to stay up late. And she thought I was just being perverse until one summer, I think it was between my sophomore and junior years, I decided, well, I don't have a summer job. I don't have to get up for anything. I'm just going to switch my hours. And so what I would do is I would stay up all night playing radio. I would go to bed at like 6 a.m. I wake up in the early afternoon. I'd go out and do my cross-country running practice for high school. I come home and eat dinner and do the traffic net, and then I stay up all night playing radio, and it worked great. I was happy doing that. And my mom was like, how could you do that? She didn't understand at all how I could possibly do that. And finally, I think it dawned on her that, well, that was like my natural time. If I was left to myself, those were the hours I would keep. So
Morning people just don't understand night owls.
They don't.
Yep. They
just don't. So, and my entire life I've been, and I've read this too, is that, I had a job interview once. The guy says, well, you're my best engineer, but I got to dock you 1 category point because you're not here early enough. That's what he told me. And we're like, okay, well, that's okay. I'll be looking for a new job. Because I can't possibly be your best engineer. And if you do that to me, I won't be your engineer very much longer.
No.
The funny thing is like the guy in the office next to me carpooled with his wife. And he arranged it so that he was always in 15 minutes before the boss came in, and he always left 15 minutes after the boss came in. I'd come in an hour after the boss came in, and I'd stay till 8 o'clock at night working on some problem or other. But of course, the boss never saw that part. So
yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah, and so you get the short end your whole career.
Yeah, that's not fair.
I teach them. I have my own business, and I work 18 hours a day. That'll teach them.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, 7-3.
It's been a pleasure.
73 all.
Thank you, everybody. See you.